feels natural. Just, okay, this is what God wants us to do.
The fostering journey for Gloria and Brian Johnson started 7 years ago in 2018 when the couple struggled with infertility but wanted to be parents.
As being Christians, we felt like we could be parents and serve in our community, so we became foster parents.
They're now on their 5th foster child. They also have 3 of their own. Along with dozens of other East Texas families, the Johnsons were guests of honor at the Fostering Collective's annual Night of Heroes. Complete with a red carpet, entertainment, and worship music, the night allows these families to connect and support each other for a few kid-free hours.
The families that we celebrate tonight are the unsung heroes of any town. They are the families who have taken on a ministry of the heart.
There's unique challenges.
According to the nonprofit, nearly 50% of foster families quit fostering within the first year of having a license due to lack of support. Events like the Night of Heroes serve as reminders that there is a community in East Texas that understands and uplifts families called to the ministry.
Whenever there's been a challenging situation, they're always available to call them, and then usually they would know someone who had dealt with the same thing and who we could talk to, and then it always helped a lot.
It's always made us not alone. We've never been alone in this.
Lauren Tier, KLTV 7 News.